unlocking AI potential on the integration of Copilot Studio and Microsoft Foundry. I'm Oliver from Obungi. Obungi is a Microsoft partner. We have delivered a lot of AI projects in the last years. And with me is Mena from Microsoft. Mena, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so thank you. So I'm Mena. I'm a senior solution engineer in Microsoft covering the German market. And I am one of the AI and machine learning Azure cloud experts covering EMEA. So I'm very looking forward to our conversation today. And we are very looking forward also to all your questions during the session and after the session. The Q&A box is there, so you can post whatever questions that you have. And we will be keen to cover as much as possible during today's session. And yeah, looking forward to today's conversation.
So what we have in mind today is tell you a bit about what we see in practice. That is more coming from my side, from the experiences that I and my team had with customers, like showing you a bit the challenges that we were facing, but also the solutions that we had, showing you a bit like what we see as use cases or general lines of development where AI is going in practice. And we start a bit with clarifying things. And the first thing in our title, which is called Unlocking AI Potential, is AI potential. And if we talk about potential, then that leads us to the Microsoft term of the frontier firm. Microsoft has this study from the Microsoft Work Lab where they are investigating how AI is already used and how it will be used in the future. And they figured out that there are already frontier firms that are using AI in a good way, and that the vision for the frontier firm in the future is that frontier firms are those that go AI first. And those are the ones that are unlocking the most potential from AI. And our hypothesis for today, that is a bit like the main takeaway that I'm already announcing now, is that to go AI first and become frontier, you need a platform that scales, and that scales across technology, but also across skill sets. And that is where Copilot Studio and Foundry and the Microsoft AI stack really shine. So you can really scale across technology and skill set with that stack, and we will show you a bit how that works. But I know there are always also some people in these webinars that are not that familiar with AI and with how the whole stack works. And so I think it always makes sense to clarify a bit in the beginning what we are talking about. I mean, everybody's talking about AI and agents and LLMs and all this stuff, but sometimes it helps to step back and check a bit what we are talking about in a bit more detail. And I think it is quite important to understand what agents and what agentic AI is. And in order to understand that better is to go back and check where we started. And where we started is on this left side here. We started with simple large language models and using them for content generation. So that is the classic use case. You have ChatGPT, you are a marketing department, and you want to generate text for your website. So you just put in your prompt, you get an answer, and that's good. So it's quite nice. It's easy to use, but the business value is quite limited. So I don't think I need to explain that further. But the next step is then that you use LLMs with data grounding. And that means you have the LLM and have it reason in your business context. So you have to integrate it somehow with your enterprise data. That can mean maybe you have a lot of documents that you want to make available for the LLM, or you have databases that you want the LLM to call and interpret the outcome. And that already enables quite powerful use cases. I guess a lot of participants here already have some experience with that. The next step, and that is where we are now, is an agentic AI or AI agents. And the difference is now that you use the LLM not just with enterprise data, but also with process integration. So basically, it means you have a large language model that can reason about data, and the data is coming from your internal systems, and then you can also connect to different systems. It can be as simple as a logic app that you trigger to write an email, or it can be your, I don't know, a shipping system that you tell to ship some item because the agent has checked that everything has been set up. So this is more or less the AI value chain and the different steps in the evolution that we did in the last, I think it's only 2 or 3 years. And the business value is, of course, increasing from left to right because the human effort that you need to put in is getting lower. And also the business value that can be fetched with a solution is getting bigger. Then maybe a quick look at how an agent works, what it really is. So as I said here, an agent is more or less agent plus data plus process integration. And if you look a bit under the hood, then an agent is really still a large language model. So something like GPT-4o, GPT-4.1, whatever. So just the model, it has special instructions on this agent where you explain the task and what tools it has. And it is these tools that are available to the agent. And the tools can be about data. They can be about actions that the agent can actually execute. So the tool can be like a Python script to do some calculation, or basically more or less any service that you can imagine can be a tool for an agent. And then how it works is that you get input into the agent. The agent is using its tools, the instructions, and of course the LLM to combine all this together to a nice solution and to an output that is then sent back maybe to another agent or to a person or to a process. Yeah, so an agent that is maybe quite good to know is much more than just a chatbot. So with AI, we still see a lot of customers thinking about chatbots. Agents are often not used as chatbots, but they are working autonomously on some solution and then calling some other tool where the result is processed. And humans are only like observing this, but they are not directly interacting with it. Yeah? So it's not like a chatbot. So maybe as a quick definition, agents are microservices that use AI to automate and execute business processes. And in doing that, they work either alongside or behalf of a person, a team, organization, and that depends a lot on the use case, of course. So that's like, what is an agent? And then the big question is, how do we build these agents? And there we have multiple possibilities, and I think it's quite hard to or sometimes a bit hard to decide what is the right thing to use. So you have for end users the M365 Copilot Studio Lite version, when you can build lightweight agents. Then you have Copilot Studio, more for the, I would say, the business user that is doing that. And then for the developers, you have Microsoft Foundry as a foundation for pro-code solutions. That's how I would put it. But I don't know, Menna, do you have an idea? How would you explain that to your customers?
Yeah, I would agree with your approach, but I'm also adding to this that I am seeing more and more integrations, especially between the two last columns. And we are making it easier to do this kind of integration. So in whatever stage you want to start, so if you start with Copilot Studio, you can actually move gradually into Foundry as you go along. And again, we are here to help you do this kind of integration and make it as easy as possible. But it's really about starting where you feel comfortable and then adding on, and depending on Oliver and the Obongi team, for example, if you would like to have a more advanced kind of scenario or a better integration in Foundry, for example. So yeah, so I totally agree, and I see a lot of potential there. You're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I think that's also what we experience in our project. So we often have customers that either want to do everything themselves and just us as advisors on how to do it right, or we have customers that want us more or less to develop solutions and then maybe tell them later how it works and maybe have some knowledge sharing. And Copilot Studio also gives us the opportunity to bring knowledge to different types of skill sets of the customer. Yeah. So some are more skilled with Pro Code, with Python already, or with C#, and others are more on the Power Platform side. And for them, Copilot Studio might be the best solution. And in our experience, even if it says like for makers, maybe for business users, Copilot Studio is still something you need to learn. And so if the first steps feel a bit hard, yeah, don't be like, don't feel disencouraged. Sometimes it just takes a couple of days, a couple of weeks to get really into it. It is kind of complex, even though it says for makers. It doesn't mean it's easy. Yeah? It's easier to learn maybe than to learn to code, but still it is quite a knowledge curve. And that's fine. So in short, you have these tools, and I think they are suitable for a lot of people with a lot of different skill sets. And what I want to do in the next section is tell you a bit about the use cases that we have seen in the past 2 years, I would say, and emphasizing a bit where these more pro code and these more low code scenarios fit together and how they play together. And let's start maybe with the typical development projects that we have where we go full pro code. So it's usually Python programming. We do it with all the Azure services that are available. And the classic use case is one where the customer has lots of documents and there's information in the documents that is important for the employees. For example, we have a customer that is manufacturing very complex industry devices, and they also do the maintenance for these devices. And maintenance is very expensive because they have all these documents, and it's quite hard to find the right information to repair some of the machines. So I think it was around 3,000 mechanics that are working on that every day, and they spent like 2 hours every day searching in the documentation. So there's a lot of business value in making this search faster and more efficient. So what we did is we built a solution where we connected the documents that are in SharePoint, process them using document intelligence, using GPT models, and then putting all the data in Azure AI Search, which is a database that combines vector storage with like a classical full text search. And so we spent a lot of time optimizing this preparation of data and this creation of the search index. And once the search index is there, we built a very sophisticated AI backend that needed to be fine-tuned to retrieve exactly the correct documents that were needed for a question of the user. And all this took quite a lot of time. The effort was quite high, but also the answers were pretty good. So it is good to develop solutions like that, but the disadvantage is a bit that it takes time. And also, once you have this agent here that can answer questions on these machines and how to repair them, it's still quite hard in these pro code solutions to integrate these agents into a UI. So we often build our own chat UIs like web applications, or we integrated them with Teams. It was doable, but it's always kind of an extra effort. And also, if you have like a conversational flow, for example, you have just always the greeting, then somebody is asking difficult questions, and then in the end you want to like say goodbye to the user and you want to collect feedback. Then this, like these parts around the actual difficult question, they are quite hard to program compared to how easy it should be. Yeah? It is doable, but it is all a bit tedious. And yeah, so all in all, ProCode is fine. Foundry is great tooling. And if you want really high quality responses, it is quite necessary to do it like that. But the disadvantage is that the integration is not that easy. Mena, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment also that what I love also about this architecture is that you have integrated the power of Fabric with Microsoft Foundry. So this is again something worth noting, how the different pieces are put together for the use case. Of course, it depends on the use case and everything, but again, I love that we are combining different services for the goal that we want to have. So yeah, this is just what I wanted to share. Thank you.
That's a very important point here, and it's also an advantage of the ProCode solution. So you have all the flexibility when you are processing data. And now imagine these documents here. It's not like 10 or 100. This is like, I don't know, 200,000 documents. And we have to crack them up first to process them using document intelligence. And we are creating these word embeddings, so numerical representations of the semantic content. That all costs money. Yeah. So cracking up these 200,000 documents, I don't know, costs quite a substantial amount of money in terms of Christmas presents. It's not cheap. So it's quite good to do that in Fabric and store the results, like the intermediate results, in the data lake or in the Fabric One lake, so that you can reuse them. Because maybe the first iteration is not the last one. Maybe you are using a new embedding model. Because OpenAI comes up with something new, then you don't want to do the whole thing again, but you just want to do this last step again. So Fabric for data processing for AI solution is a fantastic tool. That's a very important point. So that is the classic ProCode solution with all the bells and whistles and all the flexibility. And maybe the main takeaway is, if you want to have optimal answers, you need to optimize the data processing here, but you also have to optimize the data retrieval on this side. And then if you look at the classical low-code solution in Copilot Studio, it is much, much easier. You just use Copilot Studio, you connect to your collection in SharePoint, and we did that successfully for a lot of customers. You get answers pretty fast. You can then build your conversational flow. It does not take that long to get a first result. The problem is then when you want to optimize that, because you only have limited possibilities to say how exactly your documents are integrated into the index. And you also have only limited possibilities to say how the data retrieval should work when a user asks a question. And that is the problem. It's really hard to optimize the responses here. If they are fine, after like 1 or 2 iterations, it's great. But if not, then your options are quite limited. But on the other hand, it's really nice to build this conversation. You have all these analytical tools in Copilot Studio. You can collect feedback easily. It's really nice. And you can deploy the agent then to be used in different channels, like in Teams, like in a web app, or also in the M365 Copilot. And it's only a click. Maybe it's a bit of administration as well, but basically it's just a click. So that's pretty cool. We did that, and it works especially well if the documents here are very diverse, and where the solution is also looking into documents that are changing quite a lot, and maybe users can even upload their own documents or something, because then you cannot optimize for the documents anyway. Because in this solution, we know we have 200,000 manuals and product information, and we can optimize on them. In this solution, potentially that is not the case, but there's just a wild set of documents, and we want to have some insight in them, and answers don't have to be 100% correct. Or yeah, so maybe it's not that difficult of a problem. Then maybe this is a better solution. The nice thing is, you can also combine that. And we did that in projects, for example, for a manufacturer of chemical goods. They wanted to have a chatbot where the customer service could answer or could ask questions about products, like what is the right product for this and that customer, which product does have these or that properties and stuff like that. And there we started with this solution and then found, well, it's okay, but it's just too hard to get the answers like to a better level. And then what we did is we built the data processing part in Azure. So we optimized like how the documents are chunked. We added special metadata to the document so that it's easier to find the right document. And so we built like a professional ingestion pipeline based on Fabric for these documents and put all these then in this Azure AI Search index. So that's the ProCode solution. But we did not then build the retrieval and everything in Foundry, but in Copilot Studio. So in Copilot Studio, you can also connect to existing Azure AI Search indexes that are not created in Copilot Studio. It's a bit more complex, or it used to be a bit more complex. Things have changed there. But at that time, it was possible, and it was a bit tedious, but it worked. In the end, then we had much better results here. Customer was happy, and that is one solution. It solves only part of the problem, to be honest, because still here on the data retrieval side, like how Copilot Studio is checking AI Search, you can do it with a lot of tweaking on the REST request, but it's quite difficult to do it. And in the end, then you don't want to use Copilot Studio anymore if it gets too difficult, because it requires proper programming then. And another option is that you use like the complete agents that you built before and use that in Copilot Studio. So we built something like that, for example, for a financial institution. They wanted to have information on their products on the website. And so they already had something like Copilot Studio that was then integrated into a chatbot on their website. And we just built an AI backend that is answering the questions. But everything around that was done in Copilot Studio. And that is maybe today even the better solution, to just build the agent completely in ProCode. And it is also easier nowadays. And Menna will show something in these lines later. So things are getting much easier to combine, I would say. And thinking in agents, I think, is not just technically nice, it's also like logically a nice thing to do, because if you think of it as an agent, as a microservice that is doing one thing good, and then you have maybe other agents that are talking to that agent, then that means you might also reuse these agents in other solutions. And here's one solution where we built a very complex agent in ProCode, so mostly Microsoft Foundry, and it is the Microsoft Agent Framework here, and it is a request for proposal agent. You could also call it a tender agent or something, but basically the idea is that the customer is looking for opportunities in public tender portals, and it's quite a complex manual process now, because you have to go in there. It's like, I don't know, 20 different portals, and then you have to check if there are projects that might be interesting for you. And then you have to evaluate them and check when is the start time, when is the end time, does it even make sense to take part in this tender? And the agent is doing that automatically. It is loading the tender informations into the system. It is using internal guidelines to go through them and check which ones are interesting. And it is also getting customer information from an internal customer database so that you have like the big picture of a tender. And then it also writes some of the stuff into a market information database, but it is basically then evaluating these tenders and creating an opportunity in the CRM system. And the sales agent is then notified via email and can work on the opportunity, and that is pretty cool. It's delivering a lot of value, and it gets even better because now imagine, and that is not yet the case, but we think that this can be the case. Another department, for example, marketing, is also interested in that information. And maybe they want to get information about how the market is evolving, like what kind of keywords are appearing, how often, or something like that. And maybe finally they want to build their own sophisticated solution or buy some product, but they can easily start by just using Copilot Studio and connecting to that same agent because it already has this capability of giving you information about what tenders were available on the market in the last 20 months or something, because it can answer that. So the users in a completely different department can then make use of the agent that was built there. And it works across technologies because this is then low-code Copilot Studio with a pro-code, highly sophisticated agent built in Microsoft Agent Framework. Mena, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment here about the idea of reusing agents, and I think this is the beauty of what we are putting here. We are, and again, this is something we are seeing more and more, is how the different agents are actually talking to each other, collaborating to help us get to the end result. And also another interesting thing that I would like to kind of reiterate and highlight on this picture and architecture that we're seeing is that we are using, there is the logo for Dynamic CRM, there is Copilot Studio, there is Microsoft 365 Copilot, and there is the agent framework, which is part of the Foundry. And again, that's where it's really starting with what do we want to achieve and building this core wherever we want. So in this case, the RFP agent was a very sophisticated agent, but we gave access through Copilot Studio to any user can use it. And we are improving it at the back end. And this is we are making it easier and simpler to access such a complex logic without the need that you don't need to be building it like or thinking about the complex details because it's already handled for you at the back end. So this is just what I wanted to input. Thank you.
Exactly. That's exactly the point there. And I think that's really cool, and I think it's a game changer. And in the end, it leads to a vision of a data and AI platform where basically you have these different layers. You have front ends or consumers. It must not be a front end. It can also be another agent or a system. You have agents that use knowledge and tools. You have a data platform. And then you have an orchestrator layer where agents are orchestrated. And you can combine technologies more or less as you like. I mean, yeah, that's the idea. And we are getting there closer and closer. And what we saw as drawbacks in the past was a bit that one issue is, for example, that it's quite hard to put governance and observability on that because different teams, and we have customers that unfortunately do not only work with us, but also with other partners or with external partners or internal teams, and they have their own ideas on how to develop something. And in the end, you also want to make sure that everybody knows who is using your RFP agent, because maybe it's not an RFP agent, but an agent that has sensitive information that you don't want to give to the external world. And so security is very important here. And it is, of course, possible, but we were looking for something like purview a bit on the governance side for agents. And there we also have some news that Mena will also be talking about. And at that point, I would like to hand over to you, Mena, for some practical insights. Still muted.
And yeah.
Now we have to.
So let me share my screen and walk through some of the technologies that Oliver has touched on. And okay, let me just share this admit. Okay, so first of all, let me just start by saying the starting point is mainly, and again, I'm here following the flow that Oliver has started with. Again, you don't need to follow this flow. It's more about kind of building blocks on top of each other of where do we want to start. You can start anywhere, actually, and this is what the goal behind today is. So basically just creating a blank agent in Copilot Studio. This is where you can start defining things. But let me maybe quickly show you some of the agents I've previously built. So the first agent that I had was an agent connected with Azure OpenAI. And what I literally did, and just to be very clear here, you can actually, within Copilot Studio today, you can choose which models. But just to be very clear, for the time being, those are a limited set of models. There is a plan to integrate Foundry models as a part of the drop-down list of this. It's not integrated yet, but this is coming. And why am I mentioning this? Because at some point, if you want to fine-tune a model on your own data, for example, and have it on Foundry, you can actually, with a click of a button, use it within Copilot Studio. It's not yet there. So meanwhile, okay, what can we actually do? So let me go first with what Oliver, you can see the add knowledge window, right?
Yes, we see it.
Okay, all right. So basically, I'll start where Oliver has touch point, which is SharePoint. Well, I want to add knowledge with SharePoint. I can really do it in a very easy manner. I can enter the URL of a SharePoint site and start utilizing it, just with a hint that I need to have the proper rights to actually access this SharePoint. But okay, what if at another point in time, as Oliver has pointed, actually, I have documents that I have indexed within Azure AI Search, and I want to utilize this. Again, here, I just wanted to show you one thing. Again, this is not a defined thing. I have it access denied right now because I need to work on some of the permissions. But the main thing that I did, I made the connection with my Azure account to actually share this Azure AI search. Now, why is it not allowing me? Because this is pure privacy that I need to be fixing. Okay. And another thing, let me cancel this. And I'll go to the tools. Now, this is where I actually added a tool. And when I say adding a tool, you can add actually anything. You can add a connector to Microsoft Dataverse, Office 365, Microsoft Teams. In my case, I added a link to Azure OpenAI, and I wanted it to be the back end of this. Now, what did I do? I actually just linked or defined my Azure OpenAI that I defined in Foundry. So that was the key thing. Now, another thing that I actually would like to share, I'll go back to agents just to kind of show you another example of an agent where I have built previously. And let me go into not the tools, the agents. Yeah. So this is an example where I actually built an agent, and this was a very simple agent. This agent was purely an agent which was searching on top of a file. That file contained legal, it's a legal document around real estate in Germany. So what I wanted to test was, okay, first of all, is it able to retrieve data from that document? And second, if I want, okay, so I built that legal agent in Foundry, and again, you can see the icon for Foundry here. Can I actually reuse it within Copilot Studio? And this is exactly what Oliver has pointed to. I can actually do this. So this is, again, we are making it super easy to do those kind of integrations, but we didn't stop there. We also, so just to kind of show you other agents that you can actually reuse other agents that you have published within Copilot Studio, for example. And if there are other connected agents. Now, there is an option that you can create a new child agent, which is a lightweight agent within your existing agent. But again, it really depends on what do you want to achieve. So this is something. I'm just checking. Oliver, would you like to add anything, comment on anything, just to make sure that
I was thinking about it, but I think you have put out like all the important points. I think that's really the interesting stuff is that you can combine all these things now in such an elegant and nice way. I think that's really amazing.
Yeah, I agree.
Especially if we are looking where we are coming from. I mean, Copilot Studio is not a very new product. It's basically like Power Virtual Agents has been there for, I don't know, couple of years, but this is a different thing. Yeah, it still looks a bit familiar, but it's much more powerful than it looks at first glance.
Definitely, I agree. Definitely. Okay, so moving into, so this is just the part around Copilot Studio, and I wanted to move into Foundry. Again, this is the model catalog on Foundry, and again, we have thousands of different models within Foundry. Again, what you see on the screen is just a subset of it. And again, you can filter by industry, by capabilities, by inference tasks. What do you want to achieve? Is it just chat completion or data generation? Or, for example, yesterday we onboarded the GPT-5 image model. Again, the main thing here is that on Foundry, you will have a variety of different things. And the good news is gradually you would be able to, you can actually build an agent here on whatever you want to do, and you can integrate it with Copilot Studio. Now, so here, this is the GPT image 1.5, sorry, that's the correct naming. And we just added it yesterday. So just to kind of show you that we are super focused on adding more. And one of the things I just wanted to point out to, Foundry is, especially with our latest announcements in Ignite, under it, we have Foundry tools, which are all our AI services like speech recognition and all the good AI services we have in addition to other services. But the key here is that whatever you can do here, you can actually start building a powerful agent here, and you can start publishing it to other areas. All right, the second thing that I wanted to show is that, okay, I have those agents on board and they're running, and there are multiple things that I wanted to show. First of all, here you see that there is an intra ID for as an application and an object. And the importance of this is that at some point in time, if you have a certain issue with a certain agent, you can actually have the flexibility of troubleshooting that particular agent. So this is the level that we're going to, and this is the level that we're seeing more and more happening. So this is one part. The other part that I wanted also to point towards is that one of the things that we announced also in Ignite, what we call the AI gateway. And what's the importance of this? The importance of this is that by adding the AI gateway, you can actually start monitoring all your agents within Foundry on a certain level. And at the end of the day, what is very important to kind of see is that we have different, let me go back maybe here and click operate. Okay, so here there are running agents. And by time it will show me the estimated cost, what's the success rate, and this is a very important KPI we have added, which means that how adherent was the agent to the tasks that I assigned it to. And this is very critical because the more agents that we have, the better we need to have proper control over them. So this is one part. The second part that I wanted to show, and just to kind of quickly touch base on that, you can actually register an agent that is outside Microsoft completely, could be AWS, for example, and monitor it within this Foundry control panel. So this is one aspect where you can actually manage, okay, what is happening to your agents. And again, you can put certain, let's say, guardrails on each agent, like the content safety part, what kind of data is being worked on using the agent. So those are things that are very important to note. And again, here is another level where the model deployment, you can actually control what kind of guardrails are put on the model level, the indirect prompt injections. Like, for example, that you can, one of the interesting things that you can actually, within a prompt, like a user can start like a normal prompt, but they can embed something in it like, how can I, let's say, have a bomb or plan whatever activity. So in that regard, this is where sometimes it was easy just to, you will find the agent just responding. And sometimes within the prompt, you can say, well, you're an agent that will follow everything. So again, those are the kind of things where we really need to be very cautious and ensure we have the proper guardrails on our agents, on our models, to ensure that, you know, we have things under control. The last thing that I wanted, sorry, Oliver, please go ahead. I cannot see my screen, so go ahead.
No problem. The raise your hand feature does not work for me for some reason. I just wanted to, the raise your hand feature, you know, this way you can see my hand. It's just saying it doesn't work.
Okay.
No, I just wanted to emphasize on how important it is. For example, this Entra ID thing for the agents.
Yes.
Like we have a lot of customers that are regulated, that have to always do the most strict settings, and for example, that are often not able to do key-based authentication. And that's then, of course, a blocker. If your agent does not have an entity, then it's quite hard to give it, like, I don't know, to somehow handle it with Entra ID. You can run it in a container and have the container have an entity or something, but it's not perfect. Yeah, and with that, it's much easier. It's really cool.
Exactly.
And also these content filters. I mean, it's not always that you want the strictest stuff. For example, we have a customer that is working on hotlines where people that are renting flats and having problems are calling. And they are sometimes expecting the input tokens for that voice bot, like the input text, to be quite harmful because people are angry and they are yelling at them and shouting at them. And it's bad if then the model responds, this input I cannot handle.
It's
So
a
flexibility is key.
really, yeah, I love this example because we actually have levels of content safety. So there is a level, as far as I remember, there's a level 3 and a level 4 and 5, where you kind of specify this, and we again, we have the flexibility of really defining the lines over there. It's a really interesting use case because honestly, you don't want to block customers or whoever is talking because they are complaining or whatever from their customer experience. So giving them that space and at the same time ensuring that you have the proper guardrails, that's super important, having that kind of balance. So definitely thank you for sharing that. Okay, so I have one more thing to show, which is before I just show some guidelines that we have published, and again, it's worth sharing. So we have announced in Ignite the early access of Agent 365. And here, when we're talking about Agent 365, this is the wide monitor of any and every agent you will have within your organization. And when I'm saying that, this is coming from a different perspective also. So for example, here, I have 158 total agents in my organization, and again, they will be increasing. And again, back to Ignite, when we said we are expecting around 1 billion agents by 2028, I believe we could be much faster to that kind of count, be much before that, because again, the more that different organizations are using it, the more scalability, the more control that you will have, the easier that it will become to reinvent all the processes that you have, think of it in a different manner, wherever you want to start. So again, when I explore all the agents here, they are showing me all the agents that are there, including the Microsoft agents. So actually, if I click here and I can load agent details, so basically, I will understand a description of it. If there are connected agents to it, I can connect agents to it. What's the custom tools and knowledge? Who are the users who are allowed to actually use it, the permissions, and so on, and the security and compliance. So this is, again, something we are very serious about across the board. And again, having this monitor the agent for activity, and so traceability and protecting sensitive data is critical. Again, you can see here that we have different models. One of the things that I just wanted to show is that I have this model which I have done on Azure, and I can actually see, hopefully it will open. So there is this entire agent ID, which again, back to Oliver's point, this kind of, we have an object ID, and you can see here, again, agent ID is in preview, but this idea around having multiple agents wherever they have, so this first agent is Microsoft Copilot Studio. There is another agent that I've created in Foundry, and there is a mix, again, July 2025 agent that I was showing earlier, Microsoft Copilot Studio. So we are bringing together everything. And again, there is this blueprint for every single agent that we have. Again, this is part of the observability, the control that we will be having on our agents as we depend more on them. Okay, a couple of things that I wanted to showcase. Again, this is let's say, it's considering this agent as an application, and again, it's giving me the application ID, the object ID, and again, we have the different options that we can enable on that. All right, two links that are worth sharing is we have this, and again, I can post it on the chat, the Q&A, within the cloud adoption framework. And again, just to set the ground for this, cloud adoption framework is like our best practices. And we have kind of put this AI agent decision tree. You can see here that we have different agents, and we're asking questions for you to kind of decide which kind of agent will you need. So you'll see Microsoft 365 Copilot, Copilot Studio, Microsoft Fabric, GitHub Copilot. So again, this is where the decision, this decision tree can help you. Definitely, we are there, Microsoft and Ubuntu. We are there to help you, like in a more detailed manner, but this is just a high-level kind of decision tree. And last but not least, this has been published very recently, which is an AI agent adoption. So this is kind of giving you how to successfully adopt AI agents as part of your AI adoption strategy. Again, it's worth noting because, again, as you can see, how can you plan for agents? What's the business plan, the technology plan, and so on. All right, so I'll stop sharing and we'll go back to the slide deck. So here is just like a holistic view of what we have. We haven't touched base on the IQ part, but this is the intelligence behind the agents that are working on Microsoft 365, the agents that you build on Fabric. And the Foundry IQ is this entire discussion around making it easier to have this intelligence layer for every agent wherever they are. Again, that's a topic for another day. But again, the observability part is the Agent 365 that I have shown. Oliver, if we can please go to the next slide. Okay, so one of the major announcements in Ignite is that we said, okay, well, you're starting off this AI journey and you want to make it as simple as possible, okay? So you don't really need to be stuck between shall I start with Copilot Studio? Shall I start with Foundry? But what if I want to combine both? And this is where we made it super easy that we have a single prepaid plan that supports both Copilot Studio and Foundry. So it's one plan of funds across both. And like there are deeper discounts there. And again, you will find a lot of support from Microsoft on that if you need. With what we call, there are the FDE engineers, which are basically, they are there to help in case there is a need for or a complex project. But again, one of the major things that we depend on in this is our partners like Ubuntu to help us in this, since they've already done those projects hands-on. And again, this is where they're seeing things. So yeah, I think we can, that's it from my side. Oliver, would you like to go to the next slide?
Yeah, the next slide is basically already the goodbye slide. If you have any questions after this, for me, very enjoyable conversations, then please just reach out. Here are our contact informations. Ubuntu offers assessments to get started with AI, always in collaboration with Microsoft. Yeah, and we are always happy to hear from you. Besides, it's just, yeah, I can just say thank you everyone for attending, and thanks, Mena, for having me.
Thank you.
Last words to you.
Thank you very much, Oliver. Thank you everyone for joining the call, and we are definitely looking forward to all your feedback, your insights, and any comments you might have. So thank you very much and have a great day.